Hi, my name is Rachel and I need to ask you something straight from the heart. Have you ever been betrayed? Not by strangers, not by coworkers, but by your own family, and on a day that was supposed to be special? A day when you were hoping for a little love, maybe a warm smile or just some peace. Because on my birthday I didn't get a card. I didn't get a cake. What I got was a text message and I still can't forget the words. That message didn't just ruin my day. It changed everything. Not just for me but for my whole family. Before I tell you what it said, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? I really want to know. And have you ever had something like this happen to you? Maybe not on your birthday, maybe on Christmas, maybe when you were sick, maybe when you needed someone. And instead they made you feel invisible, like you didn't matter? Something like that ever happened to you? Tell me about it in the comments. I'm reading every single one. Because you're not alone. People think betrayal has to come with loud fights or broken plates. But sometimes, it comes in silence, or in a short message that hits you like a brick. I was so shocked I didn't even cry. I didn't yell. I just stood there, holding my phone, rereading the words again and again. But I'll tell you this, I walked away quietly. No drama, no big scene. Just one small thing I left behind on the dining table. And what I left there. It flipped the whole house upside down by the next morning. I woke up that morning feeling lighter than usual. There was a soft glow coming through the window, the kind that makes you think maybe today will be a little different. Maybe even a little better. It was my birthday. And no, I wasn't expecting balloons or a party. I hadn't had those since I was a kid. But I thought maybe, just maybe, I'd have a quiet moment to myself. Maybe a slice of cake, maybe my mom would say something nice for once. Just peace. That's all I wanted. I lay in bed for a few extra minutes just listening. The house was unusually quiet, which I told myself might be a good sign. I stretched out and reached for my phone, still half smiling as I unlocked the screen. That's when everything started to shift. There was a new message. From my mother. Sold your gold chain. Your sister's fiancé needed a car. Be grateful we feed you. I blinked. Then I read it again. The words didn't change. It was short. Like it was a regular errand she'd run. Like selling something that mattered deeply to me was just another chore on her list. That chain, it wasn't just jewelry. It had belonged to my grandmother. She gave it to me when I was 12, just before she passed away. She told me to keep it close, that it would remind me of her strength. And I had kept it close. Through high school, through every heartbreak, through the nights I cried myself to sleep feeling like an outsider in my own home. Now it was gone. And not even for an emergency. Not even to help someone sick. No. Because my sister's fiancé wanted a new car. I just sat there staring at the screen. My hands started to shake. Before I could even think of what to say, a second message came in. Also, you owe us $900 by Friday. Just like that. No explanation. No, happy birthday. No apology for taking what wasn't theirs. Just demands. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. It wasn't just about the chain or the money. It was about what it meant. I had worked 2 jobs, I had kept my head down, I had done everything they asked. I helped with chores. I stayed quiet when they favored my sister. I let it all slide, thinking one day, they'd see me. They'd realize I mattered too. But this was a slap in the face. It was like they were saying, you are nothing to us. Not even on your birthday. My heart was pounding. My mouth went dry. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I texted back only 2 words. No chance. That's it. That was all I could manage. It was the only way I could still hold on to a shred of my dignity. The reply came in seconds. Then get out. 3 words. Just like that. Years of sacrifice gone in a blink. She didn't even ask me why I said no. She didn't try to explain or soften the blow. It was like she had just cut a wire and watched it fall, emotionless. I sat on the edge of the bed, my fingers still gripping the phone like it might shock me. I felt my chest tighten, like something inside me was cracking open. I wasn't angry at first. I was stunned. Numb. Like I couldn't believe someone who raised me could talk to me like that. Treat me like that. But slowly something started bubbling beneath the numbness. Hurt. Followed by disbelief. And then a quiet kind of rage that burned low and deep. Not the kind that makes you throw things. No. This was the kind of anger that sinks into your bones. The kind that makes you remember everything. Every time they made you feel smaller so your sister could shine. Every time you were told to wait, to be patient, to be quiet. I wasn't crying. I wasn't shouting. I was just still. They wanted me out. Fine. I'd go. But I wouldn't leave empty-handed. I looked around my room not knowing where to start. Every corner held memories, some good, mostly bitter. My eyes landed on a folder tucked under a stack of old college notebooks. I pulled it out slowly like it was calling to me. Inside was something they had forgotten about. Or maybe just hoped I'd never use. And as I sat there holding it, my hands steadied. My breath evened out. They thought they had taken everything from me. But they were wrong. I was going to walk out. But not before leaving something behind that they'd never forget. I didn't slam the door. I didn't scream or throw anything. I didn't even say goodbye. I just stood there in my room for a moment, looking around at the space I had called home for so many years. It felt smaller now, like it had shrunk the moment my mother sent that message. Like every good memory had been sucked out, leaving behind just walls and dust. I moved quietly, almost like I was floating. I grabbed my old duffel bag from the closet, the same one I used back in college. It still smelled like laundry detergent and the library, a weird mix of independence and late-night cramming sessions. I packed only what I needed. A few clothes, my toothbrush, the folder I had found earlier, and a small photo of me and Grandma, taken years ago when she gave me that gold chain. I paused for a second, staring at her soft eyes in the photo. I whispered, "You were the only one who ever saw me," and slipped it gently into the side pocket. Every movement was calm. Vanical. Not because I wasn't feeling anything, but because I was feeling too much. If I let even one word escape my lips, I knew the dam would break, and I couldn't afford to drown right now. I had to walk out on my terms. With dignity. As I folded my last shirt into the bag, a wave of memories rushed over me. Not the kind that make you smile. The kind that sting because you gave too much and got so little in return. I thought about the time my dad lost his job and I offered to help with groceries from my part-time paycheck. I thought about how I gave up my weekend shifts so I could babysit my sister's kids when she needed a break. I thought about the nights I cooked dinner while my parents sat in front of the TV, acting like I owed them every bit of myself. And through it all, I never once complained. I told myself families help each other. I told myself maybe they'll see me someday. But they never did. I wasn't the favorite. I was the backup. The second option when the first one wasn't available. The one they only remembered when they needed something. And now not even that. Now they didn't even pretend to care. They sold my chain. Demanded money. Told me to get out. On my birthday. The betrayal wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. I think that's what hurt most. There wasn't even a moment of hesitation from my mother. Just a cold, direct message. Like I was some tenant who'd missed rent, not her daughter. My legs felt heavier with each step as I moved toward the door, bag over my shoulder. I stopped by the kitchen one last time. The overhead light flickered slightly as if the house itself was holding its breath. I reached into my folder and pulled out the envelope I had prepared earlier. My hands didn't shake this time. I placed it in the center of the dining table, neat and flat. No note. No dramatic statement. Just that one envelope. I stood there for a second, letting the silence wrap around me. I imagined the scene in the morning. The confusion, the panic, the realization of what I had done. But I didn't smile. Not yet. It wasn't about revenge. It was about release. I turned away, slowly walking to the front door. I looked back once, not to say goodbye but to make peace with what I was leaving behind. This house was never really home. It was a place where I existed but never truly belonged. As I stepped outside, the air hit different. It was cool and crisp, brushing against my face like a quiet whisper of freedom. The night was still, with only the soft sound of leaves moving in the wind. I didn't know where I was going. I had no clear plan. No backup place to crash. No ride waiting outside. Just my bag and the stars above. And yet, I felt lighter. Lighter than I had in years. Because for the first time I wasn't staying quiet to keep the peace. I was the peace. I wasn't begging to be seen anymore. I was walking away to build something that had nothing to do with them. Each step down that front porch felt like I was shedding a layer of old pain. I didn't cry. I didn't look back. I just kept walking. I thought about what Grandma would say if she were here. She'd probably say, "Good girl. You finally remembered who you are." Maybe I had. That envelope on the table? It wasn't just paper. It was a truth they'd tried to bury. It was a piece of me I had kept hidden, waiting for the moment they pushed me too far. And now they'd see it. They'd read it. and they'd finally understand what they lost. But by then I'd be long gone. They say the quiet ones are the most dangerous. I never believed that applied to me, until the next morning. I wasn't there to see it myself, but oh, I heard all about it later. Word gets around fast in a family that thrives on gossip, especially when the drama comes from the one they thought would never bite back. My cousin Jasmine was the first to tell me. She called that afternoon, whispering like she was spilling royal secrets. "Girl, what did you do?" She wasn't even mad. He sounded impressed. And when she told me what happened that morning, I just listened quietly. Every detail burned itself into my mind like a movie scene. Started with my mom. She walked into the kitchen like it was any normal day, probably expecting coffee and control. But instead she found that envelope sitting right in the middle of the dining table. I had placed it neatly like a birthday card from a ghost. She opened it expecting maybe a goodbye note or a tearful message. But no. Inside was a formal document. A legal notice. Her hands started shaking the moment she read the first line. Effective immediately, the joint account ending in 1746 has been permanently closed. All funds have been legally transferred under authority granted by. And then it listed my name. My name. Not hers. Turns out, while she and my dad were too busy favoring my sister, I had quietly been managing that account. It was under my control legally because I had set it up when I was working full-time and they needed help paying bills. They'd used it like their personal wallet for 2 years, completely unaware I had left every digital breadcrumb leading back to me. I paid the taxes. I had the passwords. I had the power. No. I had shut it all down. She panicked. According to Jasmine, she dropped the envelope like it burned her fingers. Started pacing, muttering, trying to call my dad, but he wasn't answering. Probably off somewhere pretending to be in charge of a family he couldn't even hold together. Then my sister walked in. She picked up the papers, read them, and froze. She knew exactly what it meant. That car her fiancé had just driven off with? Paid for using that same account. She thought it was family money. But now without it, the first payment wouldn't go through. Not without my signature. Not without me. He started crying. Not the soft, pretty kind. The ugly, gasping kind. The kind where mascara runs and you make noises like you're choking on regret. She sank into the chair, holding the paper like it was a death certificate. And just when it couldn't get worse, my dad came home. Apparently he hadn't known what my mom had done. She never told him she sold the gold chain. Never told him she demanded money from me. Never told him she kicked me out. He thought I was out running errands or maybe visiting a friend. So when he walked in and saw his wife crying, his daughter in full meltdown, and the legal document on the table, he finally realized something was very wrong. He read it twice. Then again. His face went pale. Then he lost it. He started calling everyone. Bank contacts. Family, friends. Even me. But I had already blocked him. Blocked all of them. Left just one email open, and even that I only checked once a week now. They didn't understand how this had happened. They thought they were in control. That I was just the quiet one who'd always say yes. But what they never saw, because they never bothered looking, was that I had been building my own safety net this whole time. Every time I picked up an extra shift, I didn't waste that money. I used it to gain financial leverage. Every time I helped them with bills, I made sure my name was on the paperwork. They thought I was just being helpful. Well, I was being smart. And now that account, gone. The utility bills? I had removed my auto-pay setup. The health insurance plan they were all using under my job benefits? Cancelled. Even the second phone line my sister used? Disconnected. I didn't just walk away. I unplugged everything. And I did it silently, like a shadow slipping out the door before dawn. They never imagined I could pull the plug because they never imagined I had the power. That morning their whole world shifted. The house didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a sinking ship. And they were scrambling to find buckets. Me. I was somewhere quiet, sipping coffee, watching the sun rise in peace for the first time in years. They had used me for too long. Taken me for granted for too long. And on my birthday, the day they chose to humiliate me, I gave them a gift they'd never forget. Consequences. They always saw me as the one who could manage. The responsible one. The one who'd understand. So they leaned on me again and again, until my shoulders ached from carrying their weight. But no one ever turned to ask if I was okay. I was just the backup. The safety net. Whenever the electricity was about to be cut, Mom would come to me, Not with gratitude but with guilt-tripping lines like, "If we go dark, what will the neighbors say?" And I would pay it. Quietly. Without questions. Because I didn't want my younger siblings sitting in the dark. Even when I barely had enough to cover my own rent, I wired that money. Groceries? There were days I skipped lunch so I could fill our fridge. I remember one winter. Mom stood in the kitchen with a helpless look on her face saying, "We're short this month." Again. I didn't even wait for her to ask. I just went to the store, loaded a cart and came home pretending it was no big deal. Like it didn't sting every time she took the bags and walked away without a thank you. What they didn't know, what they never cared to know, was that I had a second job. I cleaned offices late at night after my day's shift. I stashed whatever I could into a joint account. I set it up when I found out the bank was considering foreclosing on the house. My name was on the paperwork because I was the only one with steady income and a decent credit score. I saved that house. They didn't even know it. All the while my sister was treated like royalty. She had her own room painted 3 times a year. Got her hair done for every school dance. When she crashed her car texting behind the wheel, Dad just bought her another one, no questions asked. They called her our bright future because she smiled a lot and posted family pictures on Facebook. Me. I was barely in those photos. Someone had to take them, I guess. No one asked how I was doing. No one noticed when I stopped coming down for dinner. They only came knocking when something needed fixing or paying for or explaining. I was useful. But never visible. The gold chain they sold. That wasn't just jewelry. It wasn't just something shiny sitting in a drawer. That chain had history. I earned it. When my grandmother got sick, I was the only one who stayed. Everyone else had excuses. "Work is hectic," my mom said. "Hospitals make me uncomfortable," my sister whined. But I was there. I held Grandma's hand during chemo. I rubbed her back when the nausea wouldn't stop. I fed her soup at 3 a.m. because she couldn't sleep and needed company. I watched her fade, day by day, and I never left her side. She noticed. Before she passed, she gave me that gold chain. Told me, "This is for everything no one else saw." I held on to it like it was her final hug. And Mom? He sold it like it was nothing. For a car. They didn't just sell a chain. They sold my memories. They sold my worth. That morning when I read her text, my body went cold. Not just from anger but from clarity. It hit me they never saw me as someone who mattered. Only someone who was useful. I had confused being needed with being loved. I kept giving, thinking one day maybe they'd look at me with the same pride they saved for my sister. But that day never came. And maybe it never was going to. The chain. The money. The texts. It wasn't just betrayal. It was proof. Proof that I could disappear tomorrow and all they'd ask is who's going to cover the bills. They never saw the girl who stayed up late balancing spreadsheets to keep the lights on. They never noticed the young woman who skipped birthdays to work overtime. They didn't value the sacrifices, only the results. And when I stopped giving, they fell apart. That's when I realized something. It was never that I wasn't worthy. It's that they never learned how to see worth unless it came wrapped in sparkle, attention, or loud demands. I was too quiet, too calm, too generous. And they mistook that for weakness. But now they were learning the hard way. What happens when the quiet one finally walks away? 3 days after I walked out, my phone rang. I had blocked most of their numbers, but one call still slipped through. It was my mom. Her voice was shaking. She was crying like I hadn't heard in years. "Please come back," she said between sobs. "We didn't mean it like that. You know how things get, it was a mistake." But it wasn't just one mistake. It was years of little choices. Years of taking me for granted. And suddenly, when the person they called ungrateful was gone, they realized how much I was holding up. I didn't answer her. I just listened. Because for once it felt good to not fix everything right away. A few hours later my sister texted, "What did you do to Dad's account? He can't access anything. He's freaking out." That made me pause. Because the truth was something they never wanted to hear. They thought I was just the quiet one who slept in the spare room and borrowed their Wi-Fi. They used to joke that I was still figuring life out, like I was floating by while they were the real grown-ups. But they never realized I was the one paying the property tax. I was the one who had added myself to the emergency backup savings account to stop foreclosure 2 years ago. I was the one who moved money every week to keep the overdraft fees from stacking up. The account my dad was panicking over? I had legal access to it because my name was listed as a co-owner for convenience, as they once put it. They never thought I'd need it. They never thought I could need it. But when they kicked me out with a single text, I used what they gave me permission for, and walked away. Now I was staying with a close friend. She had a cozy apartment and her family welcomed me like I was one of their own. We made tea every night, sat on the balcony and talked about everything and nothing. There was peace in that space. No tension. No guilt. No silence filled with unmet expectations. Just air I could finally breathe. I got a small job at a local bookstore while planning something bigger. My friend and I were talking about starting a small business together. Something simple but ours. Every time I got another message from home, some angry, some desperate, I didn't feel guilt. I felt free. Because now they weren't reaching out to me, they were reaching out to the piece of control they lost. They didn't want me back. They wanted the safety net. But I cut the cords. And now, for the first time, they had to face the fall without the person they used as their cushion. Sometimes silence is louder than any scream. And sometimes walking away is the real revenge. I didn't slam doors. I didn't argue or make speeches. I just left. And that quiet exit echoed louder than anything I could have yelled. It taught them something they never imagined they'd learn from me. That the quiet one had power. That the one they overlooked was the one they depended on all along. So now I live small but peacefully. I wear a necklace my friend gifted me, a simple silver chain. It doesn't carry the same weight as my grandmother's gold one, but it reminds me, I still have value. I still have love. And I still have a future. To everyone watching this, I want to ask you something from the bottom of my heart. Have you ever walked away from your family to protect your peace? Did you ever stay quiet for too long? Were you the one holding everything together until they gave you a reason to let it fall apart? Tell me where you're watching from, and please share your story in the comments. I'm reading every single one of them and your words matter. You're not alone. And sometimes, walking away isn't the end. It's the beginning of everything you truly deserve.